Alright, hey guys, here we go. This video is going to be on the next generation GT86 slash BRZ. We know there's a second generation coming. That is a fact. It's going to be a 2021 or 22. It's coming out next in the summer of 21. So you know what's coming out, who's going to be making it. We know it's another joint venture between Toyota and Subaru. So both the BRZ and the 86 will have a second generation car. This is going to be a dedicated vehicle. We don't know what it's going to look like, but it will have its own design, body style. It's going to be its own individual car. That we do know. Okay, so it's going to be a unique car. There's going to be a joint venture between Toyota and Subaru. There was rumors that it was going to use the Toyota platform. That we're not sure. We're not 100% sure. I can dig into where it's going to be built. If I can find that out, then that would let us know. If it's at a Toyota plant, it'll be Toyota. If it's at a Subaru plant, it'll be a Subaru platform. But I think one of the things is they're trying to retain this low center of gravity. In fact, they want to lower the center of gravity and lower the weight. So this engine will probably move down and back even further. I guess with the FRS and the 86, they were limited by using the Subaru platform. This engine could only go so low because that's really an all-wheel drive platform. So you couldn't get this engine as low as they wanted to for a rear-wheel drive car. They got it back and as low as they could, so that may hint towards this Toyota platform. We don't know. We do know they were trying to lower the center of gravity and reduce the weight, which would be amazing. If they could reduce the weight of this car and come out with a new car in its similar size, that would be a pretty good accomplishment. Because usually these cars, we know, they get heavier and heavier and heavier. Look at the domestic cars. I think, right, the new Mustangs and Camaros weigh more than the originals when they had cast iron blocks and everything with the full frame. So, which is crazy that these cars weigh 4,000 pounds. But they do. I don't get it. Maybe they're just way overbuilt for safety. Maybe that's why you can push the cars so hard. They're pretty stiff structures. But if we can get the weight even less on this car, that in this day and age, that'd be amazing. We do know it's going to use the boxer engine. Okay, there's been some talk about the Toyota engine, or if it's going to be this. We know it's going to be another boxer engine, because they want, again, the lowest center of gravity in the boxer. Gives you the lowest center of gravity. And either platform will accommodate the boxer engine. Which engine is it going to be? That is the big question. It sounds now about 90% that it's going to be the new FA24, which is basically the FA... Well, it depends on which version. I'm assuming they'll make a new version of it. But basically, a 24 is a bored out FA20. You take the FA20 as the 86 and 86 bore and stroke. The 2.4 is just bored out to 2.4. So that in a performance car is going to be very, very good. It's a bigger engine. That's the first thing. Is the difference between a 2.4 and a 2-liter is quite substantial in torque wise. And then now you have that the engine can breathe better. That larger bore can breathe so much better because it unshrouds the valves. You can run bigger valves. They are unshrouded. You can get more air in and out of the engine, which will really increase the power. Right now, the FA24 is used in the Ascent, the Legacy, and the Outback. Basically, it's about 260 horsepower and 277 torque. Now, that is with the turbo. We doubt that's going to be turbocharged in this car. Toyota keeps saying they can't get the center of gravity where they want it with the turbo, and they can't get the weight down where they want with the turbo, and then it creates compromises because then they want to run, for a manufacturer safety standpoint, they have to run a heavier car, they have to run bigger brakes, all that extra stuff that they don't want to do to get the car light. They're saying they can't do because of probably Toyota's criteria for safety. So it doesn't sound like it's getting a turbo. The good thing is the WRX and STI, which are also being redesigned, which is either going to be in 21 or 22. is also going to use the FA24, and in that version of the engine, we'll have 400 horsepower and 360 foot-pounds of torque. So from 260 to 400 horsepower, that's substantial, and that's what I'm saying about this 2.4. If you put the FA20 heads on there from the FRS onto this motor, and you make a little bit bigger valves in there, you're able to crank this horsepower way up, because that larger bore is going to let more air in and out of the engine. That's going to create more horsepower, which is shown by this. If this is true, I've seen this in a couple places. So someone at Subaru is touting this 400 horsepower. That's going to be a good base engine for the FRS. So now if they go to this 2.4, again, you can put bigger valves in here, bigger cams, all that stuff, even though it's going to be naturally aspirated. Now this engine will probably be the 2.4, and it's probably not going to be turboed. So we're guessing, I mean, we don't know what the components are they're going to use. We know the block, but we don't know the cylinder heads. So hopefully they develop a new cylinder head for this engine, which it sounds like they probably will for the turbo version. And then maybe they'll make a special one, a high compression version with the big cams, kind of like the FA20 now, where it can rev to 7,500 RPM, naturally aspirated. And then we think it's going to produce anywhere from 220 to 240 horsepower. So 225 to 244, those are kind of the open rumors right now. And if we go from what we know so far, if they can lower the weight, so it'll be a 2,500 pound car, so with the driver, if your car is around 2,700 pounds, and they go to 225 horsepower flywheel, you're talking about a 14-second flat car, okay, which will probably be a lot better than where we're at, okay. If we get 244 horsepower, another 20 horsepower is going to make it a 13.6 car. When you have a light car like this, a little bit difference in horsepower makes a huge difference. But what's going to happen is if they put the right cylinder heads on this car like they did on the last one, it was very easy to get to the 300-400 horsepower range. So even though you're starting with a 14-second car, once you boost it, you could very easily get an 11-second car. And again, part of that's because of that lightweight and then the capability of that motor. And this new motor is going to have a substantially more torque when you do boost it. The last thing is the transmission. I don't know what they're going to use for transmission at all, to tell you the truth, and I haven't really dug into it that much yet, just skimmed the surface. But it sounds like Toyota's going to these new 8 and 10 speeds. So I would think it's going to have a manual transmission and an automatic. I'm pretty sure they said there's going to be a manual transmission, both options available again. Hopefully not a CVT. Those aren't really that good for performance. I'd rather have a regular transmission. And then this new 8-speed and 10-speed are very nice transmissions. The problem with the 86 now, even with that automatic, you know the gearing's closer. Your RPM drop is too much for that engine. These guys who race them that get them to go are revving the motors up to about 8,000 RPM. You're trying to maintain that engine to stay above 6,000 RPM. That's very hard to do because even with the 6-speed, the RPM drop is too much. You can drop down to 5,000 RPM at shifts, so you're coming out of the power band and then you have to get back into the power, which is at 6,000 RPM. Now with the tune, you can fix some of that. Even still, that engine really performs best above 6,000 RPM. And with these new 10 speeds, you know, you're getting like a 1,200 or 1,000 RPM drop. You're always at peak power. It's like you're always playing with that peak power curve. That's why some of these cars are so fast, like the new Mustang. With the Coyote and that 10 speed, you're always at peak power. So it never drops below 6,000 RPM, and you're always at peak power once you get out of first, and that's it. So we think this might be one of the options, would be the 8 or 10 speed. They've done quite a bit of things to this transmission. There's a new converter. The way it locks up is better. It's more efficient. It shifts faster. It's actually smaller and lighter. Looks like it's not much smaller, but considering you're picking up 2 more gears and it's more heavy duty, that's pretty good. One of the good things is the loss of torque is reduced by 50%. So the loss of power through your automatic probably won't be very much different than with a manual transmission now, because you're cutting that difference down. Here's what you're on the current one, which is probably very similar to what's in our car. This is how much power you're losing at RPM, and here's the new one. It's losing much less power. So it's probably more like a manual transmission performance-wise. It's just a matter of time before they design these transmissions to be more efficient. And then the other thing is the shift time. You're gonna have these multi-discs in there. Here we go. Here's the shift times. So they're gonna shift very quick. So when you start getting these new automatics and these dual clutch automatics, that's better than a stick once you're rolling. A stick sometimes can be better to launch and sometimes harder to launch. The stick does a couple things. Is every time that clutch engages and disengages, there's a shock to your drivetrain. And when you're running slicks, that shock is going to break things. That's going to break your axles, your pinion, your drive shaft, your transmission, because you're going from a neutral state to shocking that whole system. And then when you have slicks on there, there's nowhere for it to give. And when you put solid motor mounts and body mounts and chassis mounts in there, there's no flex in your system. On a stock car, there's a lot of flexing that can go on. With a stock car and stick, you can get away with some of that. But once you start modifying it and fixing, because all that flex reduces acceleration. You don't want your engine to rotate in the engine department, in the engine bay, and your transmission to rock, and your axle to shift. You just want all that power to go to the wheel so that it drives the car forward. And when you do that, you break things. With the automatic, you're actually kind of preloading your suspension, so it's not as hard of a shock on the system. But ultimately, then you can't launch quite as hard. But then once you get the car moving, you're going to have these quicker shifts. It's going to be almost impossible, which they're proving now, even on the Coyote, it's impossible to outshift the Mustang 10-speed. You're not going to outshift that transmission consistently without breaking it. So that looks like that might be the transmission, something like this, which would be amazing. An 8-speed, I think a good 8 or 10-speed in that with a 4-cylinder would be amazing, with good flowing heads and high horsepower and high compression. And then you add boost to it. I mean, even a turbo. Other than launching the car, that'll be the only problem with the turbo car, is you need to get that car 3,000-4,000 RPM to launch it. Other than that, once you get that car rolling with the turbo, you'll always be in power. And you have a faster shift than a manual. And you're never going to miss a gear. You're not going to shock your drivetrain, so you're going to have improved traction. That's a pretty good way to go. And for the manual, I don't know what they're going to use for a manual transmission. So I really don't have any information. I probably should have dug around on that, but I'll do that. And that's all I got. So we have a second generation GT86 and BRZ on the way. It's going to be a joint venture with Toyota. It's going to use a boxer engine. Probably most likely a 2.4, most likely probably naturally aspirated, so you're talking 220 to 240 horsepower in that form. Hopefully it's built with the potential to be able to increase that power. Toyota and Subaru, hopefully you put better connecting rods in this one so it can withstand more power. If that WRX and STI are going to make 400 horsepower, maybe we should use those connecting rods and a forged piston. Build this car so when we don't have to pull it apart. That Coyote, you can build up to 900,000 horsepower without doing much. You know, it's a 4-cylinder, so you need to build at least half that. You know, you can get to 400 or 500 without pulling that motor apart. You'll pull a lot of people over once they realize what it can do. At first, maybe not, but once people realize that you can boost these cars and make 600 horsepower, and it's only a 2,500-pound car, there'll be a lot of people coming to get one. And if it's in that same price range, about $25,000, you're going to sell a lot of these little cars. And I'm going to assume that the handling is going to be amazing, because they're planning on making this car lighter, lowering the center of gravity, and then the transmission on that, I don't have any idea yet. We really don't have much information on this car, but the few things we do know, it's a joint venture boxer, probably the most likely 90% the 2.4, and it'll probably have an automatic and manual transmission. Hopefully it has a new modern automatic in it, The 6-speed wasn't terrible. It wasn't optimal for a 4-cylinder. Hopefully they upgrade to a new transmission. And hopefully the styling is cool and unique. The one thing about the 86 is it was a good looking car. Hopefully they don't get rid of that. Keep it looking good, not too crazy, but unique, cool to the sports car theme. I don't think it needs a million options on the inside, but I think if they're trying to make the car lighter, this is going to be another basic car for options. If you want a car with a lot of options, go get a Lexus, right? If you want a sports car, hopefully this will be the sports car again. That's it. That's what I got. If you like this stuff, subscribe, like, and share. Give it a thumbs up. Help me out. And again, we're trying to get more and more content for you. All right, thanks. Goodbye.